Pickaxe.
Hello and welcome to the podcast of this week's One Life Left radio show. I'm Simon Byron.
I am Steve Curran.
We're back after our summer break. You have an hour's worth of, broadcastable radio show to enjoy. Mainly goes without hitch, apart from us forgetting, me forgetting that we had a section to do. And so some of the filling that I was doing in the middle, because I was worried about having nothing to say, turned out to mean that we had a very hectic and sudden end to the show. So apologies for that. But
I thought that was pretty good for a show after a big break. Like, usually these are the ones we put in the bin. Like
straight in the bin, file in the bin. No, we're recording during Monday lunchtimes, so a slightly different vibe. However, new season, new us, and for you, our podcast listeners, we need to tell you about something we're doing at the end of the month, which we've agreed to do, but I'm frankly terrified about. We'll be doing a special edition of the show live on the Yogscast Twitch channel on. I'm not sure if it's been announced. If it hasn't been announced, it's about to be on September the 26th. Steve and I will be in Bristol broadcasting live on the internet. Two of the oldest men in the country appearing on a Twitch channel.
I think we're certainly the oldest men to ever be on Twitch.
Yes, that would be part of the record attempt. Now, it's during a special week where all of Pickaxe's podcasts will be doing similar things. Now, they've invited us. I'm sure we were presumably right at the very end of list of people that they should invite, because I don't know why you would want two of us who very much barely have voices for radio, let alone faces, onto a Twitch channel, a predominantly visual medium, one which has watcher, viewer, listener interaction, which, I've not had since the days when I was a journalist, and that was when we were doing them on stone tablets. So I'm a bit worried. Now, it's an hour and a half show, this one, Steve, and we did mention in Gamescom that we are going to need to do some preparation. Yeah. What better way to do preparation than to ask others to do it for yourself? And so I was going to suggest, hopefully we have some younger listeners listening to the podcast here. Can you tell us what we should be doing on the Twitch channel when we broadcast live on the 26th, please?
That's it.
It will be a version of the show which you'll be able to watch live. We'll be able to chat on the chat. But we are going to need some different things to chat about, I think. So, look, if you've got any, whenever I watch Twitch, it does feature some, often some heavy hitting language. So I think we can be a little freer and easier with, what we say. I'm not certain we will actually podcast it. So maybe the only way to watch us will be to do it live. But yeah, if you've got any thoughts on how we should behave or what we could do to make ourselves appeal to a Twitch audience, please email us.
We do need some help. Because it's going to be on us before we know it, right? That's 3 weeks away.
Absolutely. Yep, 3 weeks away, and immediately after we'll have just done a show. So we'll have. Yeah, it is absolutely perfect, isn't it? I think it's ideal conditions to let the two oldest men on Twitch broadcast on the Yogscast channel. So yeah, look, we do this for you. This bit is for you, as our podcast listeners. This is the Pickaxe Podcast Week. We need your help. So we want you watching, saying nice comments, because anybody can watch.
Yeah. If you can pretend to have never listened to us before, just go, what's this? These are two men who aren't quite as old as they seem to be, and their opinions are very valid. Why? I'll be listening to more of One Life Left, but also generally consuming Pickaxe content much more because of the performance of these two men. Then that would be really helpful.
So, yeah, if you've got stuff we can read out or stuff we can do, it's a visual show. So, again, if you want to play charades, we'd be up for that. I mean, I don't know, we've got an hour and a half to film.
Yeah, if you want to come on to the show and just pretend to be one of us or both of us, and we can just be in the wings, just doing our lines, that'd be good.
We'll be good.
Are we going to have guests?
We talked about in Germany, and you said, I think we said we'd ask probably James.
Okay.
He's young.
All right. He is young, isn't he?
Good. Right. Show coming up. Thank you so much for listening. We're really, really pleased to be back, despite how it may appear. Here's the show.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to One Life Left on Resonance 104.4 FM. We are back, and my name is Steve Curran.
Hello, I am Simon Byron.
We're One Life Left. It's a radio show about video games. Let's start as we mean to go on. How are you, Simon?
Very well, thank you, Steve. Kids are back at school. Certainly one of mine is. So things are gradually returning to normal after the summer. Last time I saw you, Steve, the morning of the last day I saw you, you had your top off. It's true, isn't it?
It's how I spent the summer, Simon. I spent a significant chunk of that summer with you.
Beach body ready.
We saw each other for 7 days in a row. 7
consecutive days. It was wonderful, wasn't it?
It was perfect. Idyllic. What a great summer, even though it's been a terrible summer, which ironically, seems to have shifted right now as we enter autumn. We're recording on Monday afternoon and it is blazing hot right now.
It's the hottest day of the summer. The sun's out. Kids are back at school. But we're back, Steve. We're back. Did you have a nice summer?
I think I did. Notwithstanding the fact that I saw you for a lot of days in a row. Generally quite nice. Nice days out with the family, hanging out with friends, seeing a bit of cricket, and of course, going to Gamescom.
Yep, that's counted for 4 of the days in a row I saw you, maybe.
But not all of them.
Not all of them. I then left you. You scurried off to the passport control very quickly. I got stuck behind some gentlemen from a digital retailer who were walking very slowly, which meant that another flight landed between me getting there and you getting there, which meant you were way ahead of me.
I'll tell you what happened, Simon. I was on, the short flight back from
very
Cologne.
Short, wasn't it?
It's about an hour long. And slightly delayed takeoff. Near me on the seat was a man from the games industry who did not stop talking for the entire journey, and I could not face being stuck behind him in the passport queue. So I was very, 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 very quickly.
Very nimble, Steve, you are. Which having seen you with your top off recently, I can see that's where it comes from. What was he talking about?
He was talking about footy, Simon.
Oh, yeah.
He was talking about footy. And I'm not going to say any more because to say any more would reveal which studio he works at. And, presumably there were lots of people on that flight talking about footy. Okay. Maybe you were, Simon. Maybe you were.
I wasn't actually. I was playing Bomb Rush Cyberpunk.
Really? Are you going to talk about that later in the show when we get to the review section?
Well, I mean, I can do, but I only thinking about it then reminded me that I had done that. So, I haven't played it since, and it was a very short flight.
Well, we have a lot to catch up on today. I guess we'll talk about Gamescom in the interview section because we don't have someone to interview, even though someone messaged me at Gamescom and said, "Can I come on the show?"
Yes. Well, I thought, we'd get back into the swing of things properly. Plus, it's a slightly so we are now recording at Monday lunchtime. So we'll have to see how that works for getting guests on. It can't be any worse than any worse than having no guests.
But I've played quite a few games as well over the holiday. One in particular, and a different one, I started over the weekend. So we'll talk about those in the review section as well.
Good stuff.
Also had a quick... That's my doorbell.
Hello. Is it the man? It's the man who said you can't talk about me talking about footy.
Sounded a bit like this would be a good conceit for the for the show, wouldn't it be? Who's that at the door? Oh, look, it's Charles Cecil. Welcome in, Charles. How's it going? But no, it's not. I don't know who it is. I had to refresh Charlesbot over the holiday.
Okay.
You've been curating his output as always. How's that gone?
Not too bad. He seems to have one joke. So, maybe the AIs find this particular joke very funny. We shall see.
Video game news with me, Charlesbot 1.1. As much as I'm itching to join the 230,000 players already exploring the cosmos in Starfield, my wallet is tighter than a hipster's skinny jeans. I just can't justify shelling out to play it early. Instead, I've invested my cash in something far more practical and amusing, a lifetime supply of glow-in-the-dark socks. Because who needs interstellar adventures when you can have a mini rave in your footwear every night? The game, set to officially release on September 6th, has been lauded as the ultimate Bethesda game. And while I'm sure it's worth every penny, I'll be waiting for the full release. Meanwhile, my feet will be partying like it's 1999.
Don't know what that means. Keep your feet to yourself, Charles.
Starfield's out, Simon.
Is it though, Steve?
Well, it is for the people who paid extra to be part of that early access ultimate program or whatever it's called, or those journalists lucky enough to receive a review copy.
Well, let's maybe talk about that shortly. But yes, Starfield is out. I did some air quotes there, which is helpful for radio, and seems to be doing very well. So this is an experiment, it seems, because to call it early access, you are getting access to it earlier than the date that it's being released. So owners of the Premium Edition or the Premium Edition upgrade could start playing the game on the 1st of September, and the game officially launches on the 6th of September. They're calling it early access, but it's not early access in the way that you think of early access on Steam, which is where a game is unfinished. This is only unfinished in the way that Bethesda games tend to be, as far as I can gather. But yes, I think the Premium Edition is like £100, or you could pay like £30 to play it early if you're a Game Pass subscriber. So it launches into Game Pass on Wednesday. But if you wanted to play it earlier, you could pay an extra 30 quid. Steve, very, very fortunate this weekend. I had my old mate round from Iceland.
What's his name, Simon? What's his name?
He popped over. My friend with us. He's a very private individual, so I wouldn't want to call him out here. He was out. He was over from Iceland this weekend, and he's desperate to play Starfield, but he'd forgotten his login details. So he had to play on my Xbox account. He had to use my credit card as well, actually, which incurred two separate foreign transaction costs of 50 pence each. However, that did enable him to access the early Game Pass version for just under £20. He was very happy, actually. He's played he's played a fair bit of it. He said, he's had to go now. I'm not sure I'll start a new save, but he was delighted. So maybe we'll talk about that later. But yes, but looking at the concurrent players, it does seem that people are doing this. And so those 230,000 players that were playing concurrently obviously isn't everybody that's owning it, because not everybody's only playing at the same time. So it's done very well in early access, in inverted commas. Some people aren't happy with this practice. In that, this sort of pay to play early is becoming more common. You can do it with EA Sports FC, FIFA. EA seem to be quite used to this, but this 5 days, working week long early access is new. My Icelandic friend was very happy with it, given that he's getting it in Game Pass anyway. he thought, well, an extra £17 plus international charges was worth it.
What is £17 in the Icelandic currency, your friend?
I mean, he's just going to PayPal it to me, so I'm sure it'll sort itself out.
Excellent.
Sony shares are certainly on the upswing after announcing a price increase for PlayStation Plus subscriptions, with a surge of up to 35% in some instances, effective from September 6th. Analyst Amit Garg estimates that this could potentially bag Sony an additional $688 million in sales and $378 million in operating profit annually. Despite the price hike, there's no mention of any added benefits for subscribers, which is akin to shelling out more for a pint but receiving the same quantity of beer. Meanwhile, PlayStation Plus Premium subscribers can anticipate cloud streaming for PS5 games, once Sony has completed its testing phase. However, as much as I'd love to join the PlayStation Plus bandwagon, my wallet is tighter than a hipster's skinny jeans. I guess I'll just have to stick to playing games with my friends for free. After all, who needs online play when you've got the real deal? It's like having a virtual beer when you can enjoy a real one with your buddies and not pay a penny more for it.
Thanks.
Does Charles wear hipster jeans?
No, I didn't notice. I keep my eyes above the waist all the time.
Of course.
Charlesbot.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? There's an outcry about Sony upping its PlayStation Plus tiers without seemingly any sort of additional content or additional benefits or what have you. And people are disgusted. I'm not paying £7 extra to you. Oh, actually, I will pay £30 more to play a game 5 days early.
I mean, yeah, the answer to people who are getting angry about it like that is don't subscribe then. Just don't do it.
Yeah, yes, that is one counterpoint. It is these prices. Let's not forget that the sort of base level is what's needed to play games online. All of the consoles have a subscription service that you need to be able to play online with friends. Something that was free with all of them, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and that sort of base price is creeping up. And so on top of the hardware, on top of the games, you want to play online with people. It is going up, and we're in a cost of living crisis, Steve.
Well, quite, and we're in the midst of inflation. That's as bad as it's been for the last 20, 30 years, which doesn't just affect your food, but it affects everything else because all of the companies have to pay those increased costs. Now, I think as well as that, a lot of the companies that are existing on subscription, such as Netflix, have been doing it at a loss, right? A lot of these VC-backed companies come in, and the way they capture the market is by offering their product really, really low. And then when they've got rid of everyone else, then they can jack up the price. And we're seeing that, like in the subscription TV market, a lot of those services have, Netflix has gone up again quite recently, I think, and they're cutting down on their share. You're not allowed to share your sub anymore. Disney have just announced a big increase as well. And it's getting to the point personally where I'm like, cool, now I actually do have to think about which ones I subscribe to again. Now, I'm not a PlayStation Plus subscriber anymore. I let mine lapse a few years ago. But I imagine, you'll get to a similar point with these services. Are you being forced to make any hard decisions right now, Simon, about what you subscribe to?
Well, on the console front, I let my Nintendo subscription lapse. It was really lovely having access to a load of Game Boy and N64 games that I knew that I could play but didn't during all the time that I was subscribed. So I let that lapse. I think the only loss there is that I don't play Splatoon anymore. And PlayStation I've let lapse as well. I only keep up Game Pass. That's part of Dexter. I did let it lapse for 2 or 3 days. And I generally hear from my son now when he's either in trouble, wants money, or would like a lift. But the fourth scenario is when an online subscription service for his preferred console, the Xbox, interferes. Because he's using Xbox Live as a way of sort of keeping up with his mates. So yeah, I very promptly resubscribed to that. So yeah, that's the only one that I keep going.
I don't feel compelled to subscribe to any of these things at the moment. It's not for me. I went into Nintendo for exactly the same reason that you said, that it did seem like, it seems so nice, the idea that I might play these things, which I never played, and then let them go. And I wonder whether this is something that we're going to see more of. The analyst there said, it stands to make Sony, 600 million or something like that. But that only lasts for as long as people's credit cards don't fall out of date, right?
Yeah. I found myself in a really weird position a couple of weeks ago where somebody was like, oh, the Nintendo 64 Switch controllers are back in stock. And I'm like, oh, cool, I didn't get one of those. Yeah, okay, maybe I will. And then I thought, you never played those games when you had access to them why are you doing this? So I didn't.
All right.
And now they're out of stock, and I'm slightly regretting it. How are you culling your subscription services then? Your video ones. What sort of criteria are you applying?
So, seems to me that Netflix, which was the first one I subscribed to, is the one that is most at risk.
Is it?
Yeah.
But they announced they're bringing all of Batman the Animated Series across the end of September.
I know, and I couldn't care less about that, or indeed most of what is on Netflix. It's always the one I go to, and it's always the one that I end up scrolling through infinitely and not finding anything. I'm not really interested in any of their gaming content, aside from the fact that they have bought Spryfox, who are one of my gaming studios, and I'm more interested in that kind of, that soft way when something in the future is going to annoy you, and you're just keeping track of it until it does, and then you can go, oh, I'm so annoyed. I feel like that's what's going to happen there. So I think it's Netflix that's most. Disney have done the smart thing, really, which is it. Well, yeah, you can't. I have a 4-year-old daughter. I cannot let my Disney subscription lapse, or won't be able to get the latest episodes of Bluey, will I?
True.
Yeah. What about you, Simon, for video?
Yeah, same. I mean, well, Disney for exactly the same reasons, and to watch Frozen and the Disney films. Netflix, they've got Matilda at the moment, which we're paying £12 a month to rent. It's very good. And Amazon Prime seems to have all of the shouty, the shows where people shout at each other all the time.
Yeah.
Some people shouting at each other in Florida, some people shouting at each other in America, some people shouting at each other on a boat. They seem to be always on in our house. So, yeah, I think I'm tied in.
Sony's new remote play device, the PlayStation Portal, is set to launch on November 15th in select markets, with pre-orders kicking off from September 29th. This gizmo, which comes with a price tag of $199, 99/euro 219, 99/pound 199. 99 lets users stream games from their PS5 console. It's perfect for those who need to share their TV or fancy playing in different rooms. However, it's important to remember that the Portal isn't a standalone gaming device and won't support cloud streaming or PSVR 2 games. So if you're considering getting one, you'd better have a PS5 at the ready, folks. But let's be honest, I'm too tight to shell out for one of these. Instead, you'll find me gleefully playing my pricey PlayStation 5 for free. Who needs a Portal when you've got a PS5, right? It's like buying a Ferrari and then paying for a bicycle to ride around the garage.
I went, over summer, back to my parents' place in St Anne's near Blackpool, and I was directed towards their garage where there were a series of boxes. And in those boxes were basically all of my childhood, which they had removed from the loft, and they said, you deal with this. And in those boxes were mostly 2000 ADs, loads of 2000 ADs, loads of 2000 AD books, loads of 2000 AD comics. and Star Wars figures. And for a long time, I knew these Star Wars figures, these old original, 70s and 80s Star Wars figures were kicking around. And I thought, this is going to be good because I'm going to go back, see them, and they're going to be worth a fortune on eBay. Especially because, Simon, in the 90s, pre-Star Wars becoming cool again and then not becoming cool, I went through a period of collecting them from old junk stores. So I have a lot of this stuff. So I sat there, set up my laptop, got ready to, look at this. Here's an Ewok. I'll just search on eBay. How much is the Ewok? Oh, he's not worth very much. All right. Here's Princess Leia in Hoth gear.
Hello.
Not worth very much. All right, well, here's Princess Leia in her Endor gear, boxed. 15 quid. Okay. Really, really disappointed in that. But what I learned from it, so from Googling like what Star Wars figures were, rare and actually worth anything. None of this stuff was worth anything. Don't know what I'm going to do with it now. But what I learnt was the ones that are rare are the ones that no one wanted at the time. So your Ewoks, absolutely everyone wanted them. They're cuddly, they're cute, they're merchandise. Everyone had the Ewoks, everyone had Leia, but the weird ones that, are just filler background things, they're worth more because no one bought them, right? And especially in their box. And there's a set that I saw that was worth, I don't know, or say worth, people were paying 2,000 quid for, something like that, which is some kind of machinery that's in the background of a Jabba the Hutt scene, and it comes with a couple of figures as well. I learned this again going through my video games when I moved them from my old house to my new house. Most of the stuff there, mint in box, not worth a lot, but the weird games that no one bought suddenly accrued. Like I don't know, Gaelic sports football from 2000. If you're a PlayStation 2 completist, very hard to get hold of that. What I'm saying is, Simon, Charles is saying he can't think of a reason to, he doesn't want to splash out on this. Well, I think as an investment opportunity, buying one of these things and keeping it mint in box, burying it in the garden for 20 years, I'm betting now, and we can refer to this in 20 years on episode 1000 of One Life Left, I'm betting that will at least double in value. Because who's going to buy one of these things?
Hello. No, I haven't done. I'm surprised. I'm not going to, Steve. I'm not going to.
Well, why would you? Give me a use case.
Playing PlayStation 5 games, which I don't do anyway, but knowing that I could play them in my lounge, which isn't where the PlayStation... Have you seen the size of a PlayStation? I went round... I forgot. Ours is in a unit in the what we call the den. It's the front room. I don't know why we call it the den. So I'm not sort of regularly reminded about how big it is. But we went round some people's houses during the weekend, and they've got a PlayStation 5, and it's stood on a TV unit, and honestly, it dominates the room. So it's difficult to move when you do want to play your PlayStation 5 game. So just imagine streaming that on a device that is, which looks like a screen,
right,
wedged in between two sides of a DualSense controller. And just being able to do it in the comfort of your own other room.
I mean, the device looks appalling as well.
It does look appalling, doesn't it? It's cheaper. I mean, it's expensive, but it's cheaper than I was expecting from them.
Because they know no one's going to buy it. They've got this thing that has somehow been... when Homer Simpson designs the car, that somehow has ended up on the shop floor, and they're like, what are we going to do with this? How are we going to sell it? Your use case is you could stick your PS5 up in the loft with the cables.
Boxed.
Yeah, keep it in the box. And then you could sell it later on. You could get one of these, cut a hole in the box as well, play it inside the box, and play it downstairs. You could get your cabling man, what's his name?
TV John.
TV John to cable it all
around.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's perfect. But other than you, I don't see a single use case for this.
It would be so. I think it will be interesting to see what people can do with the device once it's in their hands. If you can open it up and do anything else with it, then let's see. I'm still disappointed that no one's found ways of being able to put additional games on the old Game & Watch that they reissued. So when I remember to look to see whether anybody's managed to do that, they haven't. But who knows? Yeah, it's such a weird-looking device with such a specific use case.
That's the other thing. Like you say, maybe someone will hack it and you can run your Steam games or whatever on it. But like the Nokia, like the, what was it called? The side-talking thing. The N-Gage. Yeah. You'd just be embarrassed to have it. Like, it just looks stupid.
Well, that's the thing. So this is the sort of device you'd be embarrassed to use on the tube. Well, guess what, guys? You can't.
Because
it doesn't work out of the house.
Ahead of you.
Exactly.
You don't want to use it on the tube, we won't let you.
Maybe that's why they've done it.
In a shocking twist, Saints Row developer Volition has been given the old heave-ho, shutting down immediately. After 30 years of crafting digital delights, the studio's journey has been as turbulent as my Aunt Mildred's attempts at online dating. From its early days as Parallax Software to being passed around like a hot potato during THQ's bankruptcy, and finally landing in the lap of Embracer Group. Despite the Saints Row series being their crowning glory, recent lukewarm receptions to their games have led to this unfortunate game over. Embracer is now offering job assistance to the displaced Volition team. Chin up, chaps. However, I must say, I would never consider selling Revolution to Embracer, given their questionable track record, unless, of course, the price is right.
This is terrible news. Really, heart goes out to everyone at Volition. Heart doesn't go out to the person who I saw from Embracer posting something about how devastated they were that they had to do this and offering job assistance to the people at Volition, which I'm sure came as cold comfort to anyone from Volition who read that on LinkedIn as well.
Nobody asked any of Embracer to do any of this stuff and these consequences of overvaluing a group and then having to pander to the whims of shareholders has resulted in some real hardship. Yeah, it's awful. Like you, heart goes out, after so long, for it to just become a victim of an accounting exercise seems appalling. I was surprised, though, by the AI's, by Charlesbot's description, given the heave-ho is how Charles described it. And I did think that maybe that is an indication of what AI thinks of us all losing our jobs thanks to what they're up to. So I'm just giving the human race a heave-ho. But appalling situation that was absolutely not the fault of anybody at Volition. I would imagine that
anybody at Volition.
Well, so I would imagine that Saints Row, or the most recent iteration of it, which we left on a cliffhanger last time we spoke. I had pre-ordered. I played it for a couple of hours. It is very bad, but. The people at Volition, I don't think, will have set out to make that game. It's the victim of circumstances, the victim of timing, resource, and direction that comes from, someone else's hands that they find themselves in.
Quite, and that's kind of the point. It's certainly the quality of that game is dependent on a million different things, but the sale of Volition to Embracer is dependent on some people at Volition.
Oh, who probably aren't there anyway now.
Correct.
Right, so yeah. Technically, my description still stands. Somebody would have done very well out of it and left everybody behind. And that's, it's not a great look. I don't know where this ends, or I'm hoping that the sort of crazy times that we saw where stuff was being massively overvalued, and people were just grabbing things left, right, and centre. But there's been an awful lot of casualties out there, and it's heartbreaking to see.
Elder Scrolls enthusiasts, prepare yourselves for a lengthy wait. Bethesda has verified that Elder Scrolls 6 is still in its early stages of development, and information about the game won't be disclosed until a few years post the launch of Starfield. It seems that the studio's attention is currently centered on Starfield, which is slated to launch this week for some who pre-ordered. The announcement of the fantasy sequel may have been premature, as series director Todd Howard has expressed some regret. So make a cup of tea, get comfortable with Starfield, and master the ancient art of patience. Elder Scrolls 6 will be worth the wait, hopefully. We can only hope that Eurogamer is still around when Elder Scrolls 6 launches, so that Bethesda won't have the chance to withhold a review copy from them again.
This is not directly related to that, but somewhat. Did you see someone stormed the stage at Jeff Keighley Con around Gamescom to demand information about GTA 6?
I didn't see that, no, Steve. I was with everyone else not watching it.
Yeah,
but
Keighley said he was very disappointed in the behaviour.
No. Somebody disappointed Keighley.
Someone ruined his big day. He'd been looking forward to the trailers that people had paid to be aired during this thing for so long, and yeah, for someone to
that's awful. Has anybody checked in on Keighley? Is he all right?
Someone should. If you're listening, Jeff, just let us know. Let us know you're okay. Well, this is obvious. Yeah, Starfield, a big thing, clearly intended to be their next Skyrim, and now they'll support it for a bit, iron out some of the bugs, and while they're doing that, ease over to development of the next Elder Scrolls game. Probably shouldn't have talked about Elder Scrolls 6 as early as they did, but really, does it matter? Because you'd be crazy to not think they were working on that, so...
Well, yes, and Charles doesn't quite get the joke right at the end of it, but the point of this was like, the media was up in arms, particularly the UK media was up in arms that they had not received copies of Starfield for review when many other outlets had done. And there seemed to be the implication that Bethesda or Microsoft had carefully selected who would receive access to it in time to prepare an assessment of the game. And lots of chat over Twitter, etc., about whether this is the right thing to do, whether ethically it's right, etc. Now, the point is, no one has any divine right to receiving pre-release code, right? That is at the publisher's discretion, the developer's discretion. Absolutely, they can do what they want with it. They don't have to do anything. But what the media can do is learn from this and choose whether the next game, for example, will be covered in such salacious tones prior to launch, and then be surprised again when they don't get review copy. And I think that this moment in time would be a really useful opportunity for certain press outlets to go, cool, you want coverage of your game? Let's have some guarantees in future, because the relationship between publishers and developers should be open, honest, and all of that sort of stuff. And nothing should come as a surprise to any media outlets. I'm not sure exactly what happened with Starfield here, but there were a lot of UK outlets that were very unhappy with it, who are now still going, but look, though, Elder Scrolls 6 is coming. And you're like, guys, have you learned no lessons?
Yeah. I saw some talk around this, avoided most of the press around Starfield because I want to be surprised by it, and I guess we'll talk about that later in the show. But it is, honestly, that cycle, Simon, has been going on since you were in PR and I was a journalist, and I don't think it's going to break anytime soon.
Oh.
All right. Thanks, Charlesbot.
One Life Left video game news with
me, Charlesbot 1.1.
You are listening to One Life Left, broadcasting live-ish on Resonance 104.4 FM. We're also a podcast. You can find the podcast at www.onelifeleft.com. It's been put together, edited and produced by our under caretaker, Phil, who isn't around right now. It's probably for the best, just easing back into this before we have his eyes watching over us. He puts together the show notes. You can find loads of useful links there and details about the show. You can also go to hello.onelifeleft.com.
So Gamescom then, Steve, tell us about your trip.
I went out to Gamescom to do some business, Simon.
Did you?
Yeah. So I don't know. This is 12th, 13th, I don't know, 15th. I don't know. I've been to Gamescom for every year I can remember since back when it was in Leipzig. I've never really enjoyed it. It's always too busy and it's always too hot. Gamescom now overlaps with DevCom, which is a developer conference which happens on the first few days of the week. And then slowly the conference gets going. In the back end of the week, they start slowly admitting the public on the Thursday. It's Thursday retail day, and then Friday public day, something like that. Saturday it gets intense. I was there from the Tuesday. I was there with you from the Tuesday to the Friday, and stayed away from the show floor in the main because even without the public there, it's quite intense. Popped on to see the indie booths, say hello to some friends, but mostly stayed in the business area. And I do quite enjoy the business area part of it because there's a little stand for every country in the world that's making games. And some of the stands have things to give away, and they try and attract you there. Like, as we both know, the Swiss stand, good for chocolate.
Lovely chocolates. And if you tell them that you're a quarter Swiss, they give you socks. And actually, at GDC, they gave me a Swiss Army knife. Yeah.
Super useful. So yeah, it is quite nice isolating those moments from the hellscape of Gamescom proper to wander around, see friends, catch up, and see some games that you haven't seen or heard of. It's really nice to see, for example, our friends at Krillbite working on Fruit Bus. It's great to see that there. Good to see friend of the show Tony Gowland working the actual show floor.
He was very
Dungeon
hard.
Golf there as well. So I enjoyed that bit, enjoyed seeing you, and I also enjoyed doing 2 Maraoke shows in 2 nights. The first one, slightly unexpectedly, we were only booked a couple of weeks before to do the Nordic party, booked by the Swedish Game Association. Had a really, really nice time there. And then the day after, running Maraoke's very first ever independently run party at Cologne's, I think, 122nd best nightclub, Neo Club. And yeah, it was a great night. Really, really busy and fun night singing stupid pop songs about video games.
It was sandwiched between two venues which caught my eye on Google Maps when I was working out how to get there. I walked there from my hotel. And it was sandwiched on the left, I think, was the Diamond Club. And on the right of the venue was something called Naughty Party.
Now, what I thought was interesting about this, Simon, was not just that information, but when I looked on Google Maps, it didn't show me those things. Now, we know that Google tailors the things it brings out of the maps to your history.
Right.
So it thinks you're naughty.
It puts some buildings in there, does it? It's just the maps. I'm not sure what you're trying to imply there, Steve, but I've never been to Diamond Club or Naughty Party before.
You didn't know they existed before that.
I didn't know they existed. No, I didn't. I have to say, I was a bit wary. I got there early before you were having some problems setting up. So I did find a bar nearby. I went quite far away from Diamond Club and Naughty Party.
Did you?
Because there did seem to be a lot of people sat outside. I think it was Naughty Party. They look very naughty, I have to say.
Did they?
They did, yeah. So,
okay. Well, I'm glad that eventually we let you in. Although, didn't you get stopped on the door? Or was that the other party where you got stopped on the door and you said, I invented Maraoke. Look at my face.
Right. So that you're
was that
you're misremembering something, and I never said it. To be fair to me, I never said it. It's the closest I've ever come to saying it. It's the closest, honestly. But I felt bad about it afterwards. But somebody tried to sell me. They said, "Oh, have you got a ticket to Maraoke?" And I went, "No." And they went, "That's no problem. You can buy one." And I went, "I'm not buying one." And they went, "Why?" And that's the closest I've ever come to saying something like that. And it was very close, and I felt disgusted. Sent myself straight to Naughty Party. But I didn't. I just said, Steve said I could come, which again ranks as one of the most degrading things I've ever said out loud. The whole thing left a really bad taste in my mouth.
And that's one of our Maraoke quotes, headline quotes on the page from now on. The whole thing left a bad taste. It was good though, wasn't it? We had a good
time. I took some of my Yogs colleagues, and they had a brilliant time. One described it as the best night so far, best night of the year so far.
Well, hopefully.
And that was in August. That's quite. It's over halfway.
No, it's not. I would have accepted that if someone had said that about us in February. I'd been like, "Yep, we'll take it."
Yeah.
But August, that's good news. We will be got a couple more gigs planned. One we're going to do in Bristol, which is going to be announced today. I think it's on the 26th or 27th. We're doing our thing on the 26th, right?
We are, yeah.
So 27th, we're down in Bristol on 27th. And then then we'll be doing another show in London around about EGX time. Have some conversations about booking a venue for that this afternoon. So that's exciting. How was the rest of your Gamescom, Simon?
I enjoyed it. I did venture out to the consumer bit on the Wednesday morning, which was before the public had been admitted. I took a walk around with the Plate Up gang, which was great. We had a look around at stuff, and then we grabbed something to drink, and then I left them. And I popped over the road to sort out a booking for dinner that night. Sorry, this was the Tuesday. That's right. Mm-hmm. No, Wednesday. No, it wasn't Wednesday. And I saw the public queuing up to get in. And I sent a picture through to Alistair, went, get out of there, because it looks absolutely insane. I always like refreshing and sort of resetting my enthusiasm levels at events like this, when you see the passion driven by people that are going to these events and the desperation like to run and play the newest stuff, and that's really, really good. But I didn't want. Yeah, I scurried back to the business area pretty quickly.
Certainly nothing wrong with these people as individuals, but as 200,000 people rushing in, it's somewhere you don't want to be.
The thing I found this year was that it's more than ever. I found the business halls impossible to navigate. It was almost as if every day they moved them around.
That's what we were saying. Is this procedurally generated?
It was just impossible to know where you were and where you needed to be next.
Yeah, which made it really hard to avoid the gaze of the woman running the Swiss stand every time I went by there to nick chocolate.
Mouthful of chocolate.
Yeah, because I'd be like, right, this time I'll pass by on the north side of it and swoop by. Suddenly her stand would be facing that way. She'd be looking directly at me.
It swivels. It's like the Sentinel.
Needs to.
Yeah.
Needs to.
Did you? I did think, actually, I had a lot of productive meetings. It was great to bump into people here and there, and I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. I did make a quick sweep around for some tat for Dexter. Mm-hmm. I had a meeting with Valve on the Wednesday morning, I think it was, before I got to the show. And that's always good. It's always good to catch up with them. I learned a lot from them this year. There's a talk that they're going to be putting online, which I'm very keen to see. But yeah, it's good to catch up with them. But they're like, thanks for coming. I'm like, yeah, and of course. My son really loves your T-shirts. And they're like, go and grab one there now. And I felt rude, that being the first thing that I did with them. But I did. I got Dexter a Steam T-shirt, which he collected yesterday. He's very happy with that. But I have to say the quality of tat wasn't anything like GDC this year. Stickers, sure, I'll pass those on to my 5-year-old. She doesn't know what this character is or who it does. It might be, morally questionable, but she will stick it onto paper and do a drawing around it. No problem at all. But yeah, there weren't any sort of, fans with laser logos on. I did manage to pick up the one USB lead, which has got 3 outputs on it, which will come in handy, I'm sure. But that was the tat highlight, although I can't remember the company name. So unfortunately, that tat didn't work.
I returned home with 2 pieces of tat. One, definitely not tat, an envelope from
Full of money.
Friend of the show, Runa, who is at Hyper Games, who are making the Moomin game, Snufkin, which my daughter is very excited about. She made Alice a little envelope full of Moomin stickers, so that was great.
Lovely.
That made my Gamescom trip. It paid for my Gamescom trip in sort of goodwill terms.
Yep.
But the other one from Xsolar. You know who Xsolar are?
I do, yeah.
Payment technology providers. Look what they gave me.
Oh, a lovely little Lego character that says "Enjoy the game," and that reminds me. Actually, I saw a lot of slogans around the business area, which I don't know. Many of them didn't make sense. I mean, so enjoy the game. All right, fine. You know, you're a payment services provider. Congratulations, you've just got a mention on One Life Left for that. There was one T-shirt you could buy which said, "I paused my game to be here." And I was like, okay, if I went up to you and said, I mean, I can understand the sentiment of it. Like I'm saying, I play loads of games, but I pause them to come here because it's great. You go up to that person who's wearing that T-shirt and say, "Hey, what are you playing at the moment?" And they go, "My game." Like, just a weird combination of words.
The one that I saw that I took a photo of was the one on the Korea stand, as in Korea, the country rather than Korea. Korea's slogan is, "What's more? Games." So just to be clear on the grammar here, it's a question, the first two questions. What's more? ? And then, with no punctuation, games. What's more?
I mean, who could argue with that?
Games.
You should mention the conversation that you overheard from the business man.
I'm gonna get the words wrong slightly. I walked past a man. You know how when you're walking around these things, you hear these snippets of conversation, like NPCs in a open world video game, and sometimes they are perfectly. You just hear the beginning of it exactly like that, and it's too perfect. So I walked past a man who had just bumped into a woman who had seen, I suppose, the previous day at the show, and he went, "A new outfit every day?"
What's more? Games? I wonder if it said that.
I should establish she wasn't wearing
clothes. Clothes are more than games.
She wasn't wearing cosplay or anything. She was just in a different business suity thing.
So that makes you wonder what he was wearing
it was
for the previous 3 days.
And how many days it had been go for. Anyway, Gamescom 2023 done.
Yes, and good news, by the way. I risked a lot because the level of TAT was so poor, apart from the USB 1 input, 3 outputs. Thank you, whichever company that was. I was looking for something to supplement the stickers for my daughter, and at the airport...
Oh, I saw this.
Well, they had a couple of blind boxes of various things. You could pick up Lego princesses or Frozen. So they were €20 each, and they had random things in them. Now, challenge, of course, is that, you don't want to go, "Oh, hi, I've been away for a few days, really missed you. Here are some things. Here are some Frozen blind boxes." And she opens it, and it's Olaf and Sven. But anyway, I needs must. I was running out of options, Steve. It was either that or a baguette from the sandwich shop, because those were the only 2 retail outlets left. I picked up 2, got them home. She was very excited because it's become a tradition when I go away to business shows that I bring back some TAP for her and some Dexter. And so she said, "Oh, can we open them now?" First one opened up. It was Anna. Okay. Now, okay, well, look, I'm halfway there. At least it's not just Olaf and a Sven or a Christoph or what have you, but that's Anna. But imagine, it would just be my luck if you open it again, it's the same Anna.
Double Anna.
It was Elsa. Come on! The Gamescom gods were shining on me. Everybody was happy.
Congratulations, Simon. Successful event. We've got 10 minutes to deal with the letters and the...
Oh!
Did you forget the letters?
I did forget about the letters.
All right, let's quickly do the letters.
Email, messages, and forward BCC. One Life letters.
We definitely had a letter from Chris Conroy.
Okay, I was looking in the Discord.
I'll find the one in the email.
Okay. I mean, this is great. I mean, we haven't done it for a while, have we? And of course, it's letters.
All right, I can do Chris's now, if you want.
Do it.
Dear Summer Holidays team, SSG in absentia and presumably still omnipresent Charlesbot 1.1. In an effort to pry myself away from whatever incremental mobile game was consuming my spare cycle's battery and patience, I finally gritted my teeth and installed a game that had lurked on the Play Store recommendation for a long time, but which I had convinced myself I wasn't going to enjoy, and was surprised to find that Retro Bowl was a really fun combination of management sim and simple one-finger sports arcade game. Loved it, 7 out of 10. With a newfound recklessness and spirit of adventure, I then bought Baba Is You, a game you hipsters might have heard of, but one that I'd long ago decided sounded too much like pseudo-coder human resource management, which was fun until it wasn't, and so wasn't my thing. Turns out that's a great 7 out of 10 game, if only there was some way of knowing. Why has it taken me so long to get over my prejudgment? A glut of mobile games with a huge sprawling middle ground of very average quality, play to win, microtransactions, shoddy knockoffs, poor Play Store descriptions, images and unreliable reviews are major contributing factors, but the biggest barrier was obviously my own interpretation of what I thought the game was, rather than what it actually is. I could ask you whether you think we're in a hiatus between golden eras of mobile gaming, and maybe you could give us a publisher's view on this, but I'm also curious to know if you've ever found yourself on the wrong side of your own poor judgment. Your careening to conclusions correspondent, Chris Conroy.
What a great question, Chris, and one deserved of a fuller answer than I fear you're about to get. Wrong side of your own poor judgment.
Yeah, definitely all the time. As pertaining to games, there are games that I've sulked about for ages and decided not to play. Often, though, that's not because I don't think they'll be mine. Sometimes I want to step back from the hype cycle. I think No Man's Sky was sort of one of those, although I wasn't playing games involving shooting at the time. But I decided that would be a good excuse as well to come back, and then really, really loved it when I did get involved. What else? What's a game that people love and that you think I wouldn't?
Well, I dislike all the Dark Souls games. The one that I bounced off many times was Dishonored. It took me 5 or 6 goes to play that properly, but once it got into me, I was hooked. I don't know why my judgment was so poor then.
I think Fez I was a bit sniffy at the time, and then played it, and then I was like, yeah, this is really good. It's really, really well balanced. Celeste as well. Like Celeste, I thought, I've played all this before. I've done all this sort of thing. I don't need another game like this. But it's just such nice, compact challenges and the right side of frustrating and fast restarts that I ended up really, really enjoying it.
7 out of 10. We do have some more letters in the Discord. We're going to need to deal with those next week. Deal with them. We'll need to give them the space and time that they deserve. Thank you for posting them. If you've got any more thoughts, comments, questions, queries, please do either email
team@onelifeleft.com
or stick it in the mailbag channel on the Discord.
It is time for the reviews. Well, this is going to be a challenge, isn't it? We've got 6 minutes to deal with 2 of the biggest games of the year.
Well, I want to talk about one that I did play and did enjoy before I got into that, which was On Garde, the swashbuckling action game, which came out during our summer break. It's very much sort of Three Musketeers meets old school Prince of Persia in the way that it feels funny, highly playable action game in which you use sort of Arkham-inspired combat, but with a much heavier environmental level of interaction. So as you're taking on groups of sword fighters, you're able to kick over barrels, pull down shelves, trigger different environmental hazards, which makes each sort of section as much of a puzzle as it is a test of sort of wit and reaction. I really enjoyed it. I found it quite difficult in places, but that's because you do need to pull individuals away from a horde in order to sort of tackle with them. But once you get into that mind step, it's a lot of fun. Looks great. Doesn't last too long. Great sense of humour. Highly playable. 7 out of 10. Thoroughly recommend it.
I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, and I've sunk an awful lot of time into it, maybe 100 hours over the summer, and I really, really enjoy it. I'm not going to go into the reasons why. You can find some of those on the Discord. We've been chatting about it on the One Life Left Discord, but it's basically really well made, and there's a lot of interesting stories, and you can, inside this quite rigid narrative structure, find ways to play it yourself and impose your own narrative on that narrative. I think it does that really, really well. I've also been consistently surprised at the smart or accidental solutions that I find to problems in the game. However, one, it's quite hard to discuss with friends because they have taken different routes through, and you kind of don't want to spoil bits for them that they haven't seen yet, or spoil things for yourself. So that's been slightly frustrating for me. And ultimately, I am at the end of Act 2 and ended up in a fight that is not avoidable. And I've tried it a couple of times, and both times I failed. Last night I tried it and got to what I thought was the end, having grinded through it and saved every time something went well. So, almost cheating my way through it. And then a big door opened and more people came out, and I thought, F it. Like, I can't be doing with this. I'm not enjoying that part. And I really want to play that game more. I do, but I don't want to have to do that fight. And so I quit and loaded Starfield. 7 out of 10 for Baldur's Gate 3. Simon.
So we won't have the time to cover full thoughts on Starfield at the moment. I will say I'm really enjoying it. From the start, I'm finding I'm playing it on the Ally, and it runs fantastically well. So the ability to sort of pop it on, play for a few minutes, turn it off. Very, very happy with that. I do have a question, though, Steve. How do I know what hazards are on a planet so that I can equip the right spacesuits?
No idea.
7 out of 10.
I mean, yeah. So I've been playing it. I've been enjoying bits of it, but I've found a couple of pieces in it curiously designed. Like there are some design decisions I do not understand. There are some ropey bits, like really ropey, as in you can. I was being attacked by some space T-Rexes. I just hid behind a knee-high grate and just shot them, and my AI companion died a few times, just got up, then shot at them and died a few times, then got up again because they can't afford to lose her because she's integral to the story. Just stuff like that, like undercuts this huge, incredible achievement. Almost all the incredible stuff you're kind of blasé about, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just hopping between planets and they're massive and I can go anywhere and do all of this stuff, but I've seen all that before because I've played No Man's Sky. And then the little things that, the inventory management is cumbersome. And one last thing I want to say. The hard crash from the beautiful, clever, smart dialogue of Baldur's Gate 3, really well written, into the generic, bland nonsense of Starfield has been pretty tough for me. Like, it is not compelling or, in my opinion, really well written. That it's not affecting me because I'm not doing the story. I'm effing off to a planet and just, fighting T-Rexes.
Steve, have you not heard the recommendations from Todd, who said that he recommends that you mainline the quest?
Yeah, I'm not.
In order to get the most from the game. I mean, that's good game design when you need to take some
tell people how to
quote from an interview.
Yeah.
No, apparently it's designed. It's you get more from it the more of the main quests you do at the start.
Which is not what I enjoyed about Skyrim. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not going to.
We will see.
I'm not impressed yet. 7 out of 10.
Good. That's it, Steve. I was going to tell you one of my observations. I'm going to have to save that.
I'm so sorry.
No. That's it.
It's good to be back, Simon.
Sorry for the ending.
Yeah, sorry for the ending, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thanks to Resonance so much. Missed you. And thanks to everyone for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
No problem.